Hi, I am John Oppermann, Executive Director of Earth Day Initiative, and we're welcoming to the Earth Day 2022 virtual stage today Brian Kateman and Bill McKibben. Super happy to have you join us. And we are going to be talking about the Reducetarian movement. And first off, Brian, can you tell us what is Meet Me Halfway and the Reducetarian movement?
Of course, thanks for having me. Happy Earth Day, everyone. Yeah, the Reducetarian movement is really a collection of individuals who understand that we need to think about our food choices with respect to the earth, with respect to climate change, deforestation, all of the issues that we as a society are facing. A Reducetarian is someone who has made the intention to cut back on the amount of animal products that they consume, so meat, eggs, and dairy. And really the beauty of the Reducetarian concept is that it's not an all or nothing premise. So of course, one way to reduce your consumption of animal products is to go vegan or vegetarian. But what we're really about is simply encouraging people to cut back, whether that's participating in something like Meatless Monday, where they're not eating meat on Mondays, or weekday vegetarian, being vegetarian during the week, or vegan before 6, having breakfast vegan meals and lunch vegan meals, but for dinner, it's their choice. And really, it's an acknowledgement that the way we raise animals for food is very resource intensive. We call these factory farms. Emits a tremendous amount of CO2 emissions, requires a lot of land, needs a lot of water to raise, to grow the feed that's fed to the animals. And so if we can all come together and acknowledge that if we reduce the amount of animal products that we eat, if we increase consumption of plant-based foods, that's going to be of benefit to the planet. And we have a new campaign called Meet Me Halfway, which is a documentary that Bill McKibben appears in, and also a book that's coming out tomorrow, which I'm very excited about, on Earth Day. And Bill wrote the foreword, and we're really grateful for that. And really, it's an exploration around all of these issues and what we can do to align our diets with a more sustainable, healthy, and compassionate world.
Yeah, and Bill, so you wrote the foreword for that and you appear in the documentary. What drew you in particular to this project?
Well, I spend most of my time working on big systemic change, not individual shifts in action. But there's no question that how we eat plays a big role in what happens to the world around us. The problem's always been that food and the ways that we consume it are deeply linked to culture and very hard to change altogether. And so I think that the work that Brian and his team have been doing is exceptionally smart in organizing terms too. Literally meeting people halfway, saying we know that this isn't a cinch and that not everyone's going to do it all at once and so on. But here are some ways to start down this line. And I think that in this case, that may make a great deal of sense because one's struggling not with vested interest or with one struggling with really ingrained cultural patterns that take some overcoming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Brian, can you say a little bit about that in terms of some of the tips that you might provide to people? Mm-hmm. But I always compare it to when people are trying to change their behaviors is sort of that New Year's resolution pattern of you have the intention, and then it's really tough to actually make it actionable, and sort of vague concepts of I'm going to eat better or I'm going to go to the gym more. Vague commitments like that often don't wind up fulfilled. Can you say just quickly for our audience that I'm sure would love to see these habit changes in their life, what's a tip that you would have for them to actually make it actionable?
Yeah, I come from a very humble place on this. I grew up in Staten Island, New York, which is not like the plant-based mecca of the world. I grew up eating lots of McDonald's and Burger King, and if it was a fancy occasion, we'd go out to Applebee's or Chili's or something like that, and there was always meat at the center of the plate. So I like to keep it very simple. I still eat the foods that I love, but I try to swap in plant-based ingredients. So I still have burritos, but instead of getting, chicken, I'll ask for extra guacamole. Or I still have pasta, but instead of having it with meatballs, I make it primavera. I try to eat what I love and then just simply swap in plant-based ingredients. I will also say, though, that what we put in our mouth is very important, and that's been the focus of this discussion, but what comes out of it is also just as important. if folks are inspired to bring others with them along the journey, when you're visiting your parents, bring a vegan meal over. Nothing can inspire someone more than just showing them how to eat really delicious plant-based foods. And so it's important not to be a private reducitarian. Consider letting people know that you've made this decision, and bring people along the journey with you is another tip that I encourage people to embrace.
Yeah, we're big proponents of being a climate communicator. So whatever you're doing, talk about it. And how about you, Bill? Do you have like one tip for people to make it actionable?
Yes. The next time you're at the market, buy a large container of peanut butter. I recommend crunchy. And you'll be reminded of you'll be transported back to 4th grade and reminded of just exactly how delicious it is to be eating ground up nuts. So no big problem.
There you go. Yeah, peanut butter is the solution. Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having this conversation on our Earth Day virtual stage this year. It's obviously an important one. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Thank you.